Hello everybody. Today, it's a bit of a different type of video where I'll be reviewing the Interstellar movie. And you're probably like, Libra X, I think you're like 11 years too late. This movie came out in 2014. Well, I saw it recently, so we're going to be reviewing it now. But this will be a spoiler review. And I'll start this off by saying, Interstellar is like a horror movie. It's like a dark, existential horror movie. This shit is not like, a sci-fi. Well, it is sci-fi, but I think it's more prominently horror as a genre. And what I think is, to review this movie, we're going to start off with characters and setting, and like world, not setting, like world and world building. And then we're going to go into like the ideas, and then production, I think, will probably be what it is. So obviously this movie starts out with like the premise that there's a famine. Anyways, now we turn on the music a bit, but what I think is, when we're starting off with the premise, right, that the world has like ran out of food and the soul is becoming incompatible because of what we've done to the earth, I'm like, that's very realistic, first of all, and that's like a very foreseeable future. So this premise that they set up for the future is, it makes sense. It's kind of a grave situation what we got going on here. So that's acceptable. That's actually like really like interesting. Then for like the beginning scenes of our characters, right, like just living in this world, like in this desolate world where like the population has gone down by so much, you can really feel that because when we see scenes of the main family, they're just so isolated from one another. It's like the most eventful thing we see is a baseball game, which gets cut short because of like the Earth's like harmful like dust storms that are like present now, right? So there's not like a lot of companionship, not a lot of like not a lot of people in this movie at all. There's not a lot of people. You don't see groups, crowds, masses, or anything, which really does sell the point. Hey, this world's kind of low-key empty now. And this is where we're introduced to the main family. So we'll get partly into the characters here as we're going through the movie. We get introduced to Cooper, Murph, Tom, and Old Man from Dexter. Old Man from Dexter is fine. He plays his role. His role is just like, he was part of the mother's side of the family. He's like, I'll take care of the kids and whatnot. But he's like a bit stubborn towards Coop. He's like, Cooper, you're a bit stubborn towards this world. You're not just accepting that you got to be a farmer. Which does like kickstart and like, that highlights, what type of character is Cooper? Cooper's like, he's like this guy who knows he's beyond what like the world is. And they capture what his situation is perfectly. He's like, you're born either 40 years too early or 40 years too late or something, Cooper, is what he says to him, which makes a lot of sense because dude's just like living in the wrong era. This is like a farming and repopulation era, right? And he's like, but I wanted to explore the stars, right? So that's interesting that they just fully capture his character very quickly. We know what's up with him. Same for Tom. We know Tom's a good character who fills his role well, which is like, he's like the guy who's like slightly attached to his father, right? Who's like not the brightest, obviously, and he knows that he wants to like fill like a masculine role, and he's gonna take over the farm and whatnot, right? And then we have Murph, who is a very well written character, and her role is like in the beginning as a kid is like she's super interested. She really looks up to her dad. We can just tell she looks up to her dad. She gets super emotional when he's about to leave. She acts mean, right? But that's just a front that any kid would put up if they're like, no, don't leave, Dad, don't leave. So we can just see that instantly that like that's the type of characters we're working with, and I think it's good that each character was able to like fulfill their role to like their fullest out of the three like home characters, the Earthling characters. Before like Cooper goes off into space, the Earthling characters, their roles were fulfilled very well. Like when Tom sends Cooper messages in space, we can say, okay, that's exactly what he did. Like this is exactly what I could see happening. And Cooper gives up on Dad in like 20, 30 years, which is like very reasonable. Same with Murph, never sending a message until like she sends a message like saying, hey Dad, we were supposed to be the same age when you'd come back, right? No, you're still not here, you bitch, right? It's like, obviously that scene was a bit redundant because we already knew like Murphy was so angry at Cooper, but this is exactly like in line with her character to do that, right? Like I feel like they did nothing out of character. They're like strong characters. They're very human people in the movie. Everybody's so human, right? And I think that's great for this setup, And what happens is Murph has this ghost at the bookshelf, right? That's like keeps telling her things, like stay, and then one day it tells her coordinates, and her and Coop analyze it after a dust storm. Like, hold up, we gotta go see this up. And then it's NASA, and then we're introduced to the problem. So let's talk about the problem of the movie now, like the main issue. The humans are about to die in like 100 years, dude. And there's a wormhole that opened up in Saturn, and this wormhole that opened up in Saturn is like is from fifth dimensional beings. They always keep referencing the fifth dimensional beings, and I feel like I don't know if it was just me, but like I feel like when anybody was like heard fifth dimensional beings, they're like, that's us, dog. That's probably humans, bro. That's probably like us looking out for us. There's like it's like nobody else in the entire universe. No, this won't be some story about aliens looking out for humans, right? This is just a story about humans looking out for other humans, bro. So the fact that there's fifth dimensional beings already helping us in our current dire situation kind of makes you think, hey, if we made it that far, that means we did just fine and everything goes successfully, right? Which kind of creates a paradox. Like they're creating their own success, right? They're creating their own purpose to their fifth dimensional life. Like we wouldn't have gotten there without them, but they also can't exist without us. So how is that possible? That I think is a paradox in the story, which I would say is a kind of a shortcoming for me. That the fifth dimensional beings and whatnot, all that. But no, that was the wormhole itself though to open like this was the plot is that they have to go through the wormhole to explore like a galaxy so far away, so that they could see potential planets that 12 people already went to. That's a genius setup. This is a great setup, right? And they have to travel all the way to Saturn in 2 years, and they have to do that. That's a good setup. That there was Dr. Man is the one that we heard about. He's like one of the expeditions we heard about. Then Edmund and then Miller are the 3 planets that they got like feedback from. The other ones were like just all dead as hell, right? So let's talk about okay. Well, we know when Cooper leaves, it's kind of sudden. He's just driving, and then it goes 10, 9, and then I think that was a bit sudden. But we don't have to like dwell on that a lot. Now, this part of the movie, when Cooper's first in space, I feel like this drags a bit. It's not the strongest part. It's definitely not weak by standards. It doesn't fall below average. But for this movie standards, I feel like it's weak. Because partly sometimes when they're talking in space, you can hear their space jargon, but sometimes you miss like the premise of the movie. Like there was this one part where like they were like, we're gonna throw TARS into the black hole, and I'm like, okay, but you guys don't know that the people on Earth have been betrayed by Dr. Brandt's equation. Like they knew that Dr. Brandt only had plan B, right? At a certain point when Murph was like, you knew that you were going to leave us all to die and there was only plan B in the end, didn't you? But they didn't know that was because like the equation was missing like the part from like actual space, dude. They were never told that by Murph, right? So what the fuck is throwing TARS into a black hole going to do, That's what I was thinking. That doesn't do jack squat, right? Obviously it was noble, and then like Cooper going to the black hole was also noble, but like I feel like they were like very disconnected. There was no way of them to know that shit, right? So that was kind of like, and to me, maybe there was something that they knew that I couldn't hear, but like I think then it became like too convoluted, like maybe too complex for me as a watcher, that I missed something like that, And I feel like if I missed it, probably other people missed it. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just the only idiot out here, but I think that there are some things that are like a bit hard to catch, right? Sometimes like I definitely feel like maybe like an average person or a person who's trying to find like an enjoyable movie to watch, this probably won't suit you because just of how complex what they're yapping about is. And obviously you don't have to know everything, right? Like it's not like you have to know everything, but like to sometimes to extrapolate like the main point of what they're getting at, it's a bit difficult. There obviously are scenes in like the movie where they like dumb down things like wormholes and blah blah blah, but it's whatever. But I think it's smart that they introduce like the concepts in the movie, like the scientific concepts such as cryo sleep, like the space pinging from the Edmund and Miller and Dr. Mann, like all that was like that was very smart. I think that setup and everything, and the fact that they had to like use a circular dock, and the circular dock had like 8 ships upon it, so they had like a lot of variety and they could go from like ship to ship, and then like the rotational thing was what allowed them to like carry through space. I think that was really good. Like that's like their way of transport. It had like it was a smart way of like introducing like a transport, and it served as a good conflict later when Dr. Mann was trying to get to it. So we're going a bit ahead of ourselves. Let's continue. So when they get to Saturn, when they go to the wormhole, I think that scene is very cool. That there's all sirens blaring and everything, and there's so much like chaos going on in that scene. I think that's good. And then when they come into the new universe, new galaxy, the first thing we see is the water planet. Let's cover the water planet. So the water planet, I think, is just a very good like scary part of this movie. It's like they go to this planet and they're like, guys, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of time is gonna be lost here. We're risking a lot to go to this planet alone. And me personally, when I first would have gone into the atmosphere and seen that the planet was just all water and waves and shit, I would have been like, well, I'm fucking leaving. I don't want humans to live here. Get the hell out of here. But these people are actually really hopeful, dude. This is like their last chances, right? They gotta fuck with anything, If it has water, dude, who knows? But I think this was probably a very quote unquote scary part of the movie because they were like, so much time was being sacrificed because they wanted to get Miller's data, right? Because Miller was the person who was on the planet who pinged them once. And then apparently her thing got fucking destroyed. She just died. And they like lost a lot of hours here, and I think it was crazy interesting that there was just a giant wave. There was like, that's no mountain, that's a giant wave, dude. This planet just killed Miller really fast, and you know what? Miller arrived 90 minutes before these people did when she sent out her little space thing, dude. So to be honest, I feel like with their deduction skills, they would have noticed that Miller should have probably still been there, dude. Like how could have Miller done her research right on the planet and go to sleep all within 90 minutes? I feel like they would have had to like at least like seen Miller or something. Because they literally showed up. If it was 10 years and 7 years is 1 hour, right? It's 10 years since the mission. She's been there for like an hour and 20 minutes, dude. They should have ran into Miller, right? I can't believe Miller sent a ping saying she was fine, even though like she got murdered on her planet within 1 hour and 20 minutes of arriving, dude. So I don't know who Miller is, but she sold. First of all, she sold there, and then they like tried to recover her dead data, but it sacrificed them like 23 years. I think it was interesting, but a bit like sudden that Cooper had to go through 23 years of messages just like that because like a shot tiny scene. Obviously, it's really scary because it shows like the grave impacts of time, right? I think it was like, I don't know if it was overwhelming or what it was. I didn't feel like crazy scared during that scene for some reason. Just knowing that they lost 23 years and Romilly was like, I didn't even want to go back to sleep because I didn't want to die in my sleep. I didn't want to die in my something about dying in my sleep didn't feel right to me. That was really heavy, dude. That was far more heavy than like I think seeing like Coop look at his family and be like, oh, they're all old now. Like they're all middle aged now, right? And I think what the movie also does well, like after this point, is like the cuts between like Earth and the big reveal that Plan A was never gonna happen because the gravity equation was solved before they left, and the dire like things on Planet 2. And now we'll get into Planet 2. Planet 2 is the ice planet, where we introduce a new character. So in the water planet, we lost that one like beard guy. Honestly, rest in peace. I guess I don't know. They kind of didn't need him, but then at the same time, it was kind of like a shameless plug death, if I can call it that. But now we're going on to second planet, Dr. Man's planet. But I think the most important scene is the reasoning behind like why they went to Dr. Man's planet. It's because like Dr. Man like pinged them 4 times, dude. He like pinged them 4 times in space. He's like, come to my planet, come to my planet, come to my planet, come to my planet, right? And Edmund pinged them like once, I think. And then Dr. Brand, which I didn't even talk about Dr. Brand once. Dr. Brand's a good character. I like her. And she does what she's supposed to do, right? And I think this is a good scene, right? Where she's like, love transcends all space and time. Love is a feeling. Like, she's a good character, but that monologue was pretty stupid. Like, obviously that's not going to convince a bunch of scientists to be like, oh, really? Oh, really? You feel love? Oh, let's go to his Edmund's planet. Let's do that. Like, obviously, bro, that's not going to work, dude. You can't just say that shit, right? Like, she was in love with Dr. Edmund, who's 10 years older than her. Kind of freaky. I don't know how much older he was than her, but yeah, so there's that. And they ended up going to Dr. Man's planet. But I feel like, I don't know if it's me, but I would have been low-key kind of sus, dude. Like, bro is sending us 4 pings. Like, he didn't just, like, do his research and then go back to sleep for, like, after 1 ping and say, hey, guys, it's good. He had to do it 4 times. Like, I feel like that's a sign that something's kind of wrong, like, and whatnot. And then when they get to his planet, they see his, like, freaking, his, like, TARS/case thing called Chris was destroyed. I'm like, I'm a little suspect of this. But one thing that's really good is we lost a lot of characters. Not a lot of characters, right, in the movie to begin with. So introducing this new character from the past, Dr. Man, was, I think, a really smart move. And having him be an antagonist, oh man, I said that weird, but antagonist, having him being, like, someone who is, like literally the exact opposite of Coop, because Coop is someone who has attachments to the world, but he's still willing to follow through this plan to save humanity, because even despite the fact that he's attachments to the world and he had to leave and whatnot. But Dr. Man is someone who had no attachments, and despite the fact that he was supposed to sacrifice his life, he was like, nah, if I pressed that button, someone would come save me. That line was like crazy, it was like, really, it was like, you can't blame the guy completely, right, for having that thought process, right, because that's so real. Like, he's like, I wasn't equipped for what I started, It's like, it makes sense, right? And then, like, everything else where he's, like, talking, like, every, like, scene where he talks, you can already tell he's a big loser. Like, in the entire movie. He's just talking, like, sorry, Coop, you won't be able to breathe. Do you see your kids, dude? Do you see your kids? It's like, okay, bro, he's just a big loser, dude. He's just a big loser for that. And I think, his unsettlingness and him blowing up Romilly is fucking crazy, dude. I feel like that did not have to happen. Maybe I would have liked if Romilly was still there with Brand at the end of the movie, but, it's fine. I guess he could die too. But then it just kind of leaves Coop and Brand, and you're like, okay. But I think that's good because Cooper and Brand versus Dr. Man to go for like the space ring. It was like a very tense scene. But okay, now on to the things of Planet 2. Basically, Dr. Man lied to them. And he's like, oh, this planet is like it's suitable. It's a suitable planet, but it was not a suitable planet. Shit was just icy and useless. And he was like, man, I'm kinda fucked here, dude. I'm really fucked here. And you know what, Dr. Man, I feel like if he admit, you know, that like his planet was just fucked, and he's like, can we all just leave, all four of us? Can we just dip and see Edmund's planet? That'd be completely fine, dude. But instead, he had to be a bot and, you know, do all this extra shit, dude. He had to try to kill Coop. Then he had to blow up Romilly and everything, and just try to dock the space thing. But then he blew up the fucking space thing, and then, oh my god, dude. Seriously, when I see Coop piloting this shit, I genuinely believe no one else can pilot this shit, dude. The shit he does is so impressive in this movie, dude. Like, it's impossible for anyone else to do, dude. I feel like no one can fill Cooper's place, dude. No other human being could have filled Cooper's place with what he was doing in the movie, dude. With his like space and shit, this spaceship maneuvering skills and whatnot, right? So that was impressive in itself. But now, going on to post Planet 2, pre Edmund's planet, which is practically the ending. The space ring scene, I think it was pretty good. It was pretty tense. It was pretty traditional. I think it was really, really nice that Tars was like, dude, I can just disable him from auto latching, and then Matt Damon was like, fuck. It's genius. Why didn't I think of that? And they just fucking died. But there's also the fact that like he just ended up killing himself because he was like way too rushed. He was like oh shit, and he wasn't like heeding their warnings like, hey dude, don't try to dock it, dude. You're gonna fuck it up and just die. And he just didn't. This is very in character for him, but that was like a bit underwhelming, to be honest. You know, it was underwhelming that he just did that. Obviously, the damage he caused by like blowing up one of the rings and shit, like part of the ring, and then like causing it to spiral into like, you know, what is it? Spiral into like the gravity of like the icy planet, and Coop having to clutch up like that. That was pretty tense, right? And then after that, we obviously, I think like around that point, that was probably like a real highlight of the movies when they were on the ice planet, because that's when like Murph got revealed. Hey dude, I finished that equation years ago. Turns out we're never saving all the humans. You guys just gotta create more shit with all the fertilized eggs we gave you, you know? That's it. That's that. And incubate the babies and whatnot. And start humanity again from there, right? I was like, damn. That was a good time for like everything to come together, right? A very good time for things to all just like come together, right? So that Planet 2 was like, it was a good portion. I liked it quite a bit. I think Planet 1 played its part well, and then Planet 2 played like another good part. You know, I feel like they're like different, but they both fulfilled their roles in the story very well. Those like two planets, and like the Earthling scenes, you know what? The Earth scenes, they were all like when they were intertwined in between everything. They were fine too as well. They also did their part well. Now onto like the part post Cooper has everything. They're like, what are we gonna do? We don't have enough fuel to get to the third planet, and there's a ginormous black hole. What are we gonna do? There's when they're actually throwing Tars in there. I'm like, and this is where Murph burns the core field so that she can play with her ghost a little more and, you know, figure out, hey, was he trying to send me some crazy message on my watch or something? And this is where you see Cooper and Tars Cooper sacrifice himself and go into the black hole. And same with Tars, even though Tars is a robo and he has to do that. But what I think about this scene is the entrance into the black hole scene is crazy. It's as good as the wormhole scene. Like the production value of those two scenes are really good. Those are like probably highlight scenes. And then Coop realizing he's in a bookshelf is like also super cool. Like it's really cool that it ties back to the being that Murph's ghost was Coop all along. What? That's crazy, right? That's a crazy plot twist. And one thing I think I didn't like or dislike. It's like I just had like a feeling about it. It's like I think they never showed in the movie. They showed that him saying stay, right, which is like, duh, he did say stay to himself, technically. Because he was like, dude, I'll never see Murph again. I'm hopeless. I'm stuck in her bookshelf now. No, stay. I would rather go on this hopeless-ass mission just to die. I want to stay. Right, like that's I guess that makes sense, because he didn't realize he would be fine, but there's one part that I didn't get. Is like, alright, so when Tar said, we're not here to change the past, Coop. They didn't send us here to change the past. Yeah, no shit. They obviously didn't send you here to change the past. I don't understand what Tars meant by that. I don't know if I'm an idiot and I missed something, but I really didn't get that scene. The scene was basically the black hole scene was just basically like, dude, I didn't know if they were in the black hole, but I do know that they were in the fifth dimensional space that the fifth dimensional beings dropped for them so that they could explore moments in time, and Coop could send messages through like different times in Murph's childhood to say, hey, here's the Morse code for the black hole data. I guess technically they had to have been in the black hole because that's how they got the data. Because TARS calculated it instantly and was like sending signals out, but no one was getting it right because they were in a black hole. And then they also dropped into the fifth dimensional space after they got that information, so that Koof could, you know, do the Morse or binary to Murph within her watch, right? Like, I think part of me thinks that Murph had to be low-key schizo after she went back and was like, Coop, it was you. You were my... I think maybe that made sense. You know, that it was Coop. I don't know. That was a bit... Now I'm thinking about it, that was a bit hard to see. That Murph could just like, oh, it was you all along, Coop. And then it was also like hard for me to believe that she could have just like looked at her watch and be like, the one gift he gave to me was this watch. And then you see like the shit just like... The thing like... First of all, I know he can like slightly like slam the bookcase to like push that shit out, right? How the fuck is he turning like the hinges on her watch, like making them turn and like... Because I feel like yeah, he could like materialistically punch like the other side of the bookshelf and like shit falls out, right? But the fact that like I don't know, I just don't get the watch scene. Like, how does he make the watch turn, dude? Maybe I'm missing something there. I could also potentially be missing a lot here. But yeah, him just turning the watch, right? Like, okay. And then she gets it, and then she solves the equation. And then that's when Coop gets sent out of the black hole after he nobly sacrificed himself because he made Dr. Brandt go to Edmund's plan. Apparently, Dr. Brandt did have enough to go to Edmund's plan. I guess I'm tweaking, but she had enough to like follow the orbit of the black hole and leave, and then go to Edmund's plan and fly the ship on her own, right? But he had to go inside the black hole, and then apparently the fifth dimensional beings are like, "All right, dude, you did your job. We're sending you out of the black hole now. Now you're just outside of the other end of the wormhole. So now you'll just be at Saturn." And that's when the people picked him up outside of Saturn's orbit. And they were like, oh yeah, we're in a circular base orbiting Saturn now, and Dr. Brandt's on Edmund's planet, and everything's good now, right? That's the ending of the movie. So what are my thoughts overall? I would say for setting and setup and premise. Premise, I would say, is good, like, 9 out of 10, dude. Very, very great, very serious. When they're on their mission the entire time, you're like, yep, they're doing humanity's, like, this is humanity's last hope right here, technically. Like, scenes and production value, like 10, dude. Like, everything was like done well. Everything looks so realistic for 2020. I see it's a 2014 movie, dude. Everything looks nice. Music was great. Production, everything was great. Characters, I'd say besides Romilly, who kind of just got used for like... Romilly was only used for like explaining shit low key, and then the other bearded guy was just dead. But that's kind of their roles, right? Like, they kind of have to fulfill their roles. How well did everyone fulfill their roles? Also 9, dude. They all did it very well. Now, for overall, like, middle of the plot itself, like, the fifth dimensional being stuff, like, humans were basically sent by humans to save humans. Like the fifth dimensional paradox shit, and then, like, how do they know they're supposed to send TARS into the black hole to, like, figure out the black hole, like, part of Dr. Brand, the old man's equation. Dr. Brand, the old man's equation, right? Like, that was kind of, like, a stretch there. The Murph... Just being there, Murph, I don't know if it's Murph being there at the right time, but just Murph, like, looking at her watch at the right time, you know, like, oh, that's deciphering all that. Like, I can tell she deciphered it. Yeah, that makes sense, because you can decipher Morse binary and whatnot, right? Like, that's, like, yeah, that makes sense, right? But, like, just, I don't know. Part of that was, like, you have to suspend your disbelief a bit, which is, like, fine. Considering anything else was, like, probably, like, crafted very well to be realistic, it's fine. That was not, like, a big hindrance of the movie. But I think... One thing I find, like, kind of, not, like, the best for me is, like, humans were basically got carried by themselves, by their fifth dimensional evolved beings to, like, save themselves now in the present. It's like basically they were transmitting to Cooper, and Cooper was transmitting to Murph. And bam, it was the chain of command. That's what the entire story was. Which I think that was okay. That's not the craziest thing to me, you know. But themes of the movie, dude, I think everything was pretty heavy and deep, so... Let's say it's a big dub on that. And when I think about it overall, I think Interstellar for me, if 5 is an average movie, then Interstellar gets an 8.2 to an 8.7 for me as my rating. What do you guys think of this movie? Let me know.